Hey, it's an emergency broadcast session. We are operating under generator power here in North Idaho. We're facing inclement weather. It's never before seen amounts of rainfall.
It's crazy.
And it's not that crazy, but it's a little bit crazy. So, hey, we want to jump on here and kind of dive into what's going on with this weather up here in North Idaho. Eric's been doing some research.
Yeah.
I don't have to do that
Dave's
much research.
going off the cuff.
My effing retaining wall fell down. All right.
Fair enough.
That wasn't related to this one.
To moisture, 100% it was.
Yeah, it was.
It 100% was. There's an irregular amount of moisture. That thing's been up for 12 years. So.
Well, let's set the stage. So if you're coming on, listen to why we're doing this. So right now in North Idaho, Western Washington, Pacific Northwest is receiving more rain than any averages. I mean, Washington, at one point I heard that a certain part of Washington was 4 feet more rain than the previous record.
When you're figuring out rain in feet,
right,
you got a problem.
So there's a lot of stuff going on. So to give you an example where we're at right now, a few things. One, as much as we like to have fun, I will tell you that we just had an individual killed in Fernan today from a falling tree. Okay, we have had the water reservoir right now in Lake Coeur d'Alene is higher than it typically is, even in the summer. Okay, the dam, which you sent a video today of the dam.
You guys can see what the dam looks like right now. It's
the dam
wild.
right now is fully open. I mean, it looks like Niagara Falls. It's crazy. We have had multiple trees come down around the area. We've had this one other time since I've been up here in 2021. We were both officers at the time, and you live downtown.
I lost power for 3 days.
Right,
3 days downtown. It's wild.
So people always ask about, like, what are the natural threats? What are the weather-related threats to North Idaho? This is the worst one I've seen. When I tell people, I'm like, if you get long periods of rain and then it's followed by a frontal wind from, and you get 80-mile-an-hour winds like what we have, those trees unbuckle. So right now, my current situation, I went to the gym this morning and I was there at 5:30. My son texts me, he goes, "Hey, power's out." And I'm like, perfect. So I went to go drive back up the hill. And sure enough, we still, right now, this is 8 hours later, we still have 3 trees that are laying across all of our power lines.
They're bigger than you want to handle.
And they won't let you buck them up because they got lines all intertwined in them. So Kootenai Electric's up there.
I told you what to do. If you touch the line fast enough, you can see if it's hot without getting electrocuted.
Trust the science.
Listen to advice.
Vast experience.
That's kind of the situation we're in right now. And it is kind of a serious situation, but we'll get into rainfall and all that stuff after that. But that's kind of where we're at right now. That's what's happening in North Idaho.
Well, I'm glad you brought up. People often ask, hey, what sort of natural disasters can you face here in this area? When growing up here, I grew up in Spokane. There's one that's worse than this. When you get that heavy rainfall followed by wind, it's ice storms where rain.
Maybe that's next.
Yeah, well, it's rain and then sleet and then freeze and then sleet and then rain and then freeze. And all of a sudden you have these trees that are just getting weighted down with compiling ice on top of ice and all of that. And branches will snap off. I live close to Manitou Park on the South Hill, and you'd hear branches snap and it sounded like gunshots. Wow. But it knocked out power all across the city. So I've gone through 2 of these since I've been a cop here, where we'd have thousands of calls on the screen. And yeah, you get heavy rainfall followed by high winds. That's just part of it. And what's funny is, talking to somebody today, it's mostly pine trees. Like the deciduous fir trees, they have a deeper root system.
They do a lot better.
Right. It is almost always the pine trees.
Yeah.
I noticed. Okay, so you remember how this year Farmer's Almanac was like, we're going to get record snowfalls.
Yeah.
We're getting the moisture.
Record
It's
moisture,
just not cold enough.
Right.
Yeah.
If it would be, we'd be under 9 feet of snow right now.
Yeah, we would be.
Yeah, which would be awesome.
It's weird. It was somebody was also explaining that. That's what I was looking up, is that atmospheric river, or whatever, that vapor stuff in the sky, and it just literally creates an atmospheric river. It's keeping that from turning to snow, which could have a long-term effect. I mean, I love that we have a lot of water right now, but I don't know if that's going to get to the water table. We need a good snowpack.
Right.
So you realize what's happening, right?
What?
This is North Idaho, and they don't like us. They're manipulating the weather patterns.
I knew it.
Okay.
I knew it. I knew chemtrails was coming. I knew
it
it was coming.
I didn't say chemtrails. I said
I know where you were going.
Manipulation using directed energy weapons.
So here's what I'll say. One thing that's really cool about that, you bring that up, and probably the number one thing when people ask about flooding, when you have all this flooding, we absolutely have areas that are consistent with what other people are dealing with. Clark Fork is getting hit pretty big.
Cataldo.
I have some videos from Clark Fork. The creek you see in these videos is Lightning Creek. And yeah, it's flooding really bad. A lot of homes are threatened up there. Roads have been washed out. There's also some video of Spring Creek Road, which was washed out via drone. So take a look at those videos. They're pretty interesting. So bad things are happening. I mean, Just keep that in mind.
So
We're not making light of it.
What I'm getting at is that, Idaho sheds water really, really well. You will never be able to avoid high water and flooding if you are in a flood zone, right? If you are around a creek, a river, somewhere where water naturally floods.
Where a lot of people want to be.
Right, exactly. You are going to deal with those issues. But what's amazing, and I'm super thankful for, Idaho, because we have so many of these rivers, because we have so many streams, this land here knows how to shed the water.
Yep.
We don't have any flooding in towns. You don't see any videos of houses underwater. You don't see any videos of cars going through puddles that are up to the windows. Right. You don't see that in North Idaho. I mean, when it was raining really hard the other day, you could drive around town without any major issues. So that is one thing that I love about it, is that we will get that massive amount of rain. And yes, if you're in Cataldo along the Coeur d'Alene River, you're going to face some issues. But in town, it's really been relatively normal.
Unless it's Lake Winco and you're a newly promoted sergeant. Alan, you're my boy.
That's a story for another day.
Real quick, do you want to hit that story? Because that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was very similar to this. Heavy amount of rainfall, and there was like a curse of newly promoted sergeants that something bad happened in their first week on. And he was driving through the Winco Park, and you couldn't see anything, and he totally forgot where the swale was.
Yes.
And he went right into it. So, of course, everybody took pictures of it.
There is a man-made drainage in Winco parking lot that he forgot about and literally drove his cruiser. Yeah. We tied boat fenders onto his car when he got back. I loved it.
He'll love this story. That is amazing. He will hate my guts for that.
I saw, so my son sent me a picture of a Schweitzer right now, the base. They have like less than an inch of snow at the base.
Wow. See,
that's wild, right? It's December 17th, and we're not getting.
And we were supposed to get
the snowpack, right?
We need the snowpack.
Snowpack is important. So I don't know how that's going to play out. I don't know. I mean, the higher elevations are probably getting snow. Maybe the peak of Schweitzer. I don't know. But
Silver's still closed. I know.
That's
Trent was
abnormal,
trying to
right?
go snowboarding, like this Saturday, and it's still closed.
So that's another thing too for people that ski. When we get heavy rains after snowfall, we have avalanche issues up in Silver. We've had people
have died up there. Right?
Yeah, they've died up there, and a lot of times I really haven't heard too much about Lookout because it's pretty high. So getting that rain after snow really doesn't happen up there. But Schweitzer, I mean, Silver seems to be the one place where we have the avalanche warnings a lot.
Yeah, I still like Silver.
Yeah,
compared to Schweitzer. Schweitzer's like super bougie.
I'm bougie. I like Schweitzer more.
Real high end.
Sorry.
Silver Mountain's where you're gonna see like a dude in jeans and a t-shirt drinking a bush latte going down the slope.
You're not talking about Lookout.
No, dude. Silver Mountain.
If you're looking to buy or sell a trailer in North Idaho, Eric is your guy. Just put it out there.
My people.
Yeah.
So
we know.
What else we have? So preparing for stuff like this, because this is back in 2021 or late 2020 when we had that heavy rain and then windfall right afterwards. We had, like you said, 3 days, no power downtown.
Yeah, which you expect that more in the outskirts, right? And most people have generators out in the hills, but you don't expect that downtown.
So
only nobody has generators.
Right. The only saving grace, I'm out of power right now, and my well runs off of power, my heater, everything runs off of power. So we have electricity. So I got nothing at my house right now. The only saving grace to this is when we have these types of events, usually it's rainfall followed by wind, which means it's going to be warm.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that's really the saving grace for me and a lot of people right now is that my house is relatively warm. I'm not worried about pipes freezing and things like that.
That's where the ice storm was different. Like that one was bad. I remember my dad bringing in a gas heater into the house, and we had a pet bird, and we treated that thing like a mining canary.
Oh, it's like
100%. So we brought the bird in. We're like, well, sorry, dude, you're gonna sacrifice yourself for the greater good, just to make sure that if it got bad, but because it was freezing. I mean, everywhere out there, and we were out of power for like two, maybe 3 weeks.
Oh, that's a long time.
Yeah, but honestly, now I don't even think we'd run into it the same way. You're talking 90s. This is probably early 90s. But now I don't know if it'd be the same way because there's a lot of underground power now.
Yeah,
there is, and a lot of people ask about like prepping for stuff like this. I had to sit down with my kids this morning, and I said, "All right, you guys need to start a fire. Here's the deals." And I explained to them, like, we got to keep the house a little warm.
Yeah.
Right. These are the things we got to look out for. Unfortunately, we have no water. I'm like,
right?
We're peeing outside, dude.
Yeah.
That is what it is. I just called my son right now. I said, "Hey, you have 2 hours. I want you to go into town, go to the gym, take a dump." Yeah. Get a little workout in if you'd like, take a shower so you smell good.
Yeah.
And then come home.
Yeah. And then you should be good to go.
Thank goodness you have that.
That is another consideration if you're buying a house and it's out there on some acreage. Generacs on the front end seem like a pretty significant expense, but there's a lot of people out here that have an emergency generator just for moments like this.
The number one thing is the well and the heating, right? Like obviously the heating, but the well you might not think of. If you're on a well, you're not getting water out of that unless you have power.
A lot of people also are talking about how they're going to buy a cow, or they want elk meat in their freezer. They want meat in their freezer. Well, if it gets warmer, the risk of losing $3,000 worth of
100%
beef is real. So, even I jerry-rigged a generator at my old house, and we were able to hook it up to the system, but you got to flip it, take it off the grid, and it would just run that stuff.
Right.
Just run the freezer, just run the fridge. Good to go. Maybe the coffee maker.
And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I really, I don't have a generator yet. I'd like to get a whole home generator. I don't care if any lights are out.
I got one.
I need the fridge and freezer to work.
Do you want to borrow my generator?
You got one?
I got one.
Dude, I got one at the house I'm not using.
I'll use yours. That'd be great. I keep my freezer.
I have a freaking
Sorry, y'all have to listen to this. Yeah.
See what happens when I get home. But I mean, those are the things. If you have water and power, or water and heat, and you're able to run your freezer if you have that. I mean, that's expensive, but I don't mind if that goes out. But I got to have water and heat. Outside of that, I don't care if there's a light on for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I kind of like it.
That's fine.
It's
kind of nice to reset
that
too.
Much, actually.
Yeah. I would be 100% okay with it. I just want water and heat.
Well, it'd be fun to have the family around too without the TV on, or without even the draw of getting on, because there's nothing works. Just
my kids
off.
Can't even charge their phones right now. I think it's awesome. I'm gonna get home tonight and be like, "Oh, you're out of battery? That sucks."
That's like, go grab a board game.
All right. Question for you guys. I have not lived here as long as you. What happens when the lake level gets too high? So too much water's coming into the lake, and there's not a way to get it out fast enough. Is there an alternative other than the dam in Post Falls?
Man, I don't know.
No.
I think that is it.
That's
I think
pretty wild, because there's a lot of infrastructure very close to the lake that would get very expensive if it got destroyed.
Yeah, man, if you look at the way those things are built, they go off historical levels, right? Like, I've never seen it to where it was taken out. I've seen them really, really high before. I've seen it to where the docks go higher than the posts, and they pop off the posts.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, so that's happened before.
Yeah,
we're not there yet.
Spots, but I think what saves us is our topography, right? Like, there's a pretty steep decline going into the lake, and it's not built all at sea level or a couple of feet above sea level. So I think that protects us.
I always wonder. I'm skeptical because I've lived through a scenario where an emergency spillway on a dam failed, and then it came.
That's right.
Yeah, dude. So I was at the dam today in Post Falls, and it's ripping, and I'm like, this thing was built a very long time ago.
Yeah.
What happens?
I don't know if that. I honestly don't know. I don't know a lot about dams. Somebody's gonna be like, you don't know shit about them. Well,
we do not.
Listen
you are
to
right.
me tell you that I don't know anything about them. The way this one is built is that the water naturally, it's almost like a spillway. Our dam is naturally built that way. It's open, and as it flows over
the top, right?
So it doesn't flow through anything. They might have some parts where it flows through on the bottom, but it's built so that things flow over it. So I don't think naturally the lake can really overflow.
Right.
I think there's a point where it's going to flow no matter what.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do to stop it.
I guess the bigger risk in that scenario would be everyone downstream of that.
100%.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Because if the dam failed, then all of that in the lower Spokane.
Spokane would look nicer. I don't know.
Okay. Anyway,
Everybody know rain dance? No, I'm just kidding.
They have enough water right now. I don't want
Yes.
them to get any more.
Man, I don't know. I think it's a product of volume, right? Like how much is actually coming down from the mountain, rivers, and streams and lakes and all of that stuff. When you look at this in comparison to what's going on in Western Washington right now, the Cascades are way bigger. I mean, that's just sheer amount of volume. They're getting way more runoff than we are.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't know how much we get from our little, finger of the
Yeah,
Selkirks.
it is true. I mean, we're 45 minutes and we're through the entire pass, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I think we had the double whammy of we had some snow on the mountains, and then that rain hit and it got warm and it melted all the snow
100%.
as well.
That was exactly what happened. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at early spring results right here.
Yeah.
Yep.
And everything
that
starts to melt.
That could make, and I'd love for somebody that knows a lot more about it to kind of educate us on that, because I'm talking to somebody 2 days ago that was saying this type of runoff doesn't do anything for our water table. It doesn't saturate that far. It doesn't permeate.
It just
all
goes
the way.
too quick, right?
Yeah, it just moves too fast. What hurts our water table that's, already got a little bit of a population increase, and it affects other states far worse than ours, because we have a lot of water up here, is snowpack. And we aren't getting good snowpack. And you talk about avalanche conditions. What kills that is, or what makes that really dangerous is when you get a lot of snow really, 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 really fast. And then it rains a little bit and then it warms up. And it doesn't get a chance to get a good pack.
Right.
So I'm hopeful this weekend. I know Snoqualmie Pass is supposed to get a ton of snow. I'm hoping we do too. and we can start to build up our snowpack.
Let's talk about down trees a little bit, because I have this huge, I just have this like deep-seated fear of trees falling on me.
Yeah. And that has happened out here.
It has happened out here, and it's very possible. You know, I told my wife was going up to where we're building our house, and I was like, don't stay off the back roads as much as possible, right? Because it's a lot more likely. Now's a good time to take the freeway, especially now they cut all the trees down in the center median there, right? It's pretty safe.
I have been driving down 54 on patrol when we were responding. We had thousands of calls on, over 1,000 calls on the screen, which some people are out there laughing. We're like, oh, it's typical Tuesday. But in Cooney County, not normal, not regular. Driving 54 was completely out of control. That's the east-west highway, for those who don't know, that runs between Spirit Lake and Ethel. I mean, down trees, and I'm watching them drop. I'm going down the only car on the road.
That's an uncomfortable feeling, dude.
Oh, and there's lines everywhere, and you're trying to get to somebody.
Right.
There was a young man out there that was just trying to get home, and a tree dropped on him while he was driving. I mean, doing 35, 40 miles an hour.
That's the thing I fear, man. You know, like, and it's like, you're kind of at the whim of God at that point, because you just don't know. But yeah, it's real. When I started in the highway patrol, I worked in Humboldt County, where the redwoods are enormous, and we'd get calls in the middle of the night, nasty storms, or shit, I can't remember. Anyway, this road, and you go up there in the middle of the night, and it's just shit's falling everywhere, and you know these monsters are out there, and you're like, well,
if it's my day,
I'm just gonna wing it. And we had a crash one time on the freeway. One of these monsters fell on the freeway, on top of a van. A branch pierced the top of the roof and right through the center console. It didn't kill anybody. It went right between the driver and the
passenger. That's what held it up, probably.
Probably.
Did it stop it dead in its tracks?
Yes.
Just like a dink, like locked it in.
And it's like
wild.
Well, y'all the luckiest people alive.
Yeah,
right now.
dude, you remember the one that happened? I'm pretty sure you were still on patrol. The one on Celtice.
I wasn't on patrol. That was only 2 years ago.
Oh, so okay, but that one was so
that pine tree,
they're taking out all the pine trees in the middle of I-90, and a lot of people are complaining that they're getting rid of those pine trees because it's kind of a cool little corridor when you drive through there. But it's all those. Scott told me that there's a difference between ponderosas and bull pines, I guess. But either way, they're ponderosa pines to me. But they're right in the middle of the highway, and one had died, and it still looked like it was somewhat healthy-ish. Dropped right on her car. Older lady driving down, I mean, middle and out of nowhere. No wind, no nothing, just that was the day.
So the lesson is, like, take care of your trees. You know, if you have big trees around the house, make sure they're healthy. A good, healthy pine tree is probably going to stay up, probably. Right. But when you get these saturated soil conditions, that's ripe for it.
That's when you also call an arborist, right? When you're buying a home or you're buying something on land, have an arborist come out and look at certain things. I mean, especially if you have hills. Yeah. I mean, I have hills all over the place. There's a lot of trees growing on slopes. Yep. Those things can get pushed over a lot easier than something that's on flat ground. So have an arborist come and look at those things, see if there's exposed roots, how healthy the tree is, all those things. And then if you know kind of the wind patterns in your area, that can be a good thing too. Typically we get our big winds are going to be from east to west. Yeah. Or sorry, from west to east. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, coming from the coast. So we don't typically have anything going the opposite direction. So think of those things as well, but absolutely like keeping things away from your house, away from vehicles, not parking under those, not driving during those conditions. It was uncomfortable this morning when I was driving back. I'm like, oh, crap, man.
Right. It's kind of dark, right? Yeah, and you're like, you don't know.
Yeah. The sunroof is nice.
I look up at it. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll see it.
It's a very common theme. You want to move out here because you want to be amongst the trees. You want to be out in the woods. You want to be amongst nature. And I know with my spouse, I would have to take trees out when she wasn't home and then hide it as best as I could so she wouldn't discover it until later. She didn't like me taking down trees throughout the yard. But if you're going to go in and put it in a shop, or you're going to disturb the natural state of the soil, right? Those root balls and root systems can be really, really wide. Yeah. So if you're already messing with some of that, make sure to move them away from the house.
That's the other thing too, is like the fact that you said that you went out and you took down trees. People got to learn how to operate a chainsaw up here. The other night, my son called me. He was driving home. There was a tree down on the road. He's like, hey, I was already home in my underwear. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, ugh. So I had to throw a chainsaw in and go out there and buck that thing up. And
don't even pretend you were so excited to get that call.
That's true.
I was so excited.
You know you were.
That's where he wants his fire pole, so he could just slide down it for old time's sake. Yeah.
And my main floor is upstairs. I'd have to go back upstairs. Aaron.
You would do it. You would still do it.
I would
absolutely do it.
No, but you have to learn how to operate a chainsaw. You know, I mean, you can go back and forth on, you know, what type do I get or anything else, but you need something for those types of situations.
Steel.
I'm talking about actually putting a toolbox in the back of my truck and keeping that with me at all times because it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Days like today are vital to throw the chainsaw.
Right, and if you're running uphill coming back to your house, You can't get to your chainsaw if you don't have it with you.
Yes.
Right? Or it's one of these and you're getting back to the house because there is an emergency there. You have to be able to keep it with you. You're going to hear about these storms coming. We've known for a day or two that they're going to be really, really bad. When I was on patrol, everybody had a saw in the back of their car, and we ran that.
Yep.
I mean, we ran a lot of calls when we were out there just doing
We had to do it, but not tell anybody because, management was like, well, we don't have a training course on that, and there's no policy on chainsaw. I'm like, fuck off. Like, we're putting a chainsaw on the back of the car. Yeah. Let's talk about down power lines because we've all dealt with that, and I was joking earlier, don't touch them, but you got to be real careful with those. Like, I don't play around with down power lines. No. I would call these guys and be like, hey.
And, a lot of people, I'm not advocating for anybody to go touch anything, right? But just so a little bit of education too, your high power lines are going to be high. Okay, so a lot of times you will have cable lines that come down consistently. You'll have low voltage lines.
They're usually fat or covered in plastic, right?
They're usually black, and you'll see them where they connect. They'll usually connect about halfway up the pole.
Yeah,
those are going to be telephone lines. Those are going to be, and not your high powered lines. Your high powered lines are going to be all the way at the top. Those are the ones that typically are not going to be insulated, and you're going to see those. But yeah, so that's one of those things to make sure that like you kind of have an idea. Because I'll be honest, if I look at something and I see it's a telephone wire and it's across the road, I'm just going to drive across it. But I'm not going to drive across a high tension wire. Right. Or something else that has power going through it. So just be very, very careful with that. Other things too, we used to always train on if wires fall on your car, do you get in or do you get out? Do you stay in? Do you get out? Whatever else it is. And one of the things that they always taught us is never to put 2 feet down on the ground. If you can get out, you have to get away from your vehicle to try not to touch anything metal, right? First of all, and if you get out, to not put 2 feet on the ground and to actually do 1 foot and almost skip if you have to get away from.
I would dive roll out of it, right?
Oh, you'd be dead for sure. I've seen your dive roll.
But it'd be cool.
It would be pretty cool.
No, you just have to be careful with that stuff. Obviously, moisture outside too. Electricity can travel. The good thing is that electricity always wants to ground. It always wants to go into the ground. It doesn't want to come after you. It wants to go down. So, but if you become that conduit,
don't take a chance. Call the power company.
The last time we had a wild call while we were on patrol, and one that you don't really think about, a huge tree went down and wiped out a major hub for natural gas. So the entire block, we had to evacuate the entire block. So that, not just everybody thinks utilities, you think about power lines coming down, but that can be a mess too.
Yeah, don't mess with gas either. No. That'll get you.
Yeah, so the big takeaway too is like generators are important, chainsaws are important, having a way to run your water.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's really important. My daughter's like, I have to pee outside. I'm like, we're gonna rough it. You'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Good job.
Go dig a hole.
Well, and have a plan. There's a lot of families moving up here that live in different spots, right? Take that stuff seriously. Like it's Idaho, and it's not all just like fear based. And oh my God, there's a windstorm. But think about where it is you're going to stay.
The other simple thing too, know the other way out. So I was able to get down off the mountain today and come over here. And the trees are still down because I have another way on and off. Know those other ways.
Yeah.
If there's another way to get to your house, travel it once or twice a week or whatever else. Just be familiar with that route. Because if your main route gets cut off, you got to know where to go.
Yeah. That's a good call. Especially if you're buying property, just have an idea what you'll use in a pinch. It's not just for blowing up pumpkins. I have an extra road out of my property.
Oh, damn. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was pretty cool.
Maybe we should cut that video in too.
Oh, the Tannerite explosion?
No, dude.
No, we're putting
2 pounds of Tannerite is on sale right now.
We're putting that in this video. Yeah, that's it. All right, be smart.
Yep.
That's all it is. Common sense. It's not that common.
We have natural disasters here. Idaho's not totally perfect.
This is one of the biggest ones.
Yeah. And like I said, it can be gnarly and it can be lethal. You just got to be prepared. And if you're going to move North Idaho, please learn how to run a saw.
Yeah. There's probably a course.
Oh.
There's probably a YouTube video for that.
Learn how to drive.
Yes. Oh, don't even go down that. That's a whole nother video.
4-wheel drive does not stop your vehicle fast.
No. And sometimes I think it's worse when people have a 4-wheel drive because they think they get so confident.
That's how I got rear-ended the first time. She's like, I have 4-wheel drive. I'm like, well.
Does 4-wheel stop? Is that the way that works?
How do your 4 brakes work?
Yes.
I hope she regretted saying that because that's really dumb.
That was good.
Awesome.
All right.
Cheers.
Hope that helped. Later.